Joining us now is Illinois Congressman Krishnamurthi, who is on the Intelligence and Oversight Committees. Congressman, it's great to have you back on the show. Your reaction to this latest interception, I want to note that the vessel, Kristi Noem pointed out, is not on the list of tankers under U.S. sanctions that are publicly maintained by the Treasury Department, so we don't know why they decided to go after that tanker specifically. But we know that they are now doing it after Trump basically ordered this blockade against all tankers. Do you view this as another illegal action taken by the Trump administration? And what do you make of Stephen Miller saying that Venezuelan oil is our oil? We built their oil industry and it belongs to us.
I'm deeply disturbed. I think this is potentially provocative. I think this might be deliberately provocative to almost get the Venezuelans to start firing on us, and then for Trump to be able to fire back and then allow for all the consequences that follow. And I can tell you that my constituents, and I think the American people, don't want to sign up for that. And I think that we're basically moving toward a war, and I oppose that. And if the president wants to use military force, he needs to come to Congress. He needs to seek an AUMF, an authorization for the use of military force, because I think that the American people will not sanction this type of prelude to a war in Venezuela.
Congressman, I want to get your reaction to something that one of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle and the other chamber has been proposing. Not at an AUMF, but getting private citizens involved. Utah Senator Mike Lee introduced a bill on Thursday that would let Trump license U.S. citizens as privateers to seize alleged cartel assets abroad, essentially like handing out licenses for Americans to become pirates and have U.S. citizens help out the Trump administration with these potentially illegal actions abroad. What's your just give me a reaction to that, I guess, is my first question. And second of all, does this suggest that there is actually quite a bit of support among Republicans on the Hill for this endeavor?
No. When I talk to Republicans privately, they are deeply concerned, skeptical, and indeed in our classified briefing the other day, I'm not telling you anything that's classified. There's a lot of skepticism that was openly expressed to Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, and others. And so this idea that you just floated seems like crazy town to me, basically allowing for private individuals to go and essentially take bounties. It's about as illogical as, ICE commissioning bounty hunters to go after people as part of their dragnet. It's just wrong. It's un-American to me.
Congressman, I want to go back to something you said a few moments ago. You said that you believe that some of the administration's actions in Venezuela, are sort of provocative in the sense that they're trying to get the Venezuelans to potentially react to them almost as a pretense. Do you believe we are close? We've heard members of this administration, the president, say land strikes are very much a possibility. Are we getting close to that point? I mean, even now we see images of additional military gear and personnel arriving in the Puerto Rico area. What do you think is actually about to happen?
Yes, I think that we're moving closer. We're moving to the point where this is not about countering narco-terrorism. Remember, President Trump just pardoned one of the biggest narco-terrorists that exists, namely the former president of Honduras, who was convicted in an American court of law for narco-terrorism. This is about regime change. And I think that as part of his move to try to remove Maduro from power in Venezuela, he's basically inching us toward a war. And the reason for the War Powers Act in the first place after the Vietnam War is that the American people did not want secret wars. They did not want wars in their name without their consent. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And so that's why I think a war powers resolution in Congress is eminently reasonable and justified.
Congressman, tonight we have discussed numerous extrajudicial killings, these strikes that are happening in waters in the Caribbean, some in the Pacific. But I want to hone in on the strike in early September that has been quite controversial because of the second strike that killed survivors. And I wanted to ask, when will the American public see the video of that strike? And I wanted to ask if there's been more access among congressional members, including yourself, you sit on the Intelligence Committee, to see the footage.
No, and I've asked for access. Others have. We have not been given access, even after Hegseth said that we would have access. And I think the reason why we haven't been given access has nothing to do with potentially revealing sources and methods of intelligence collection. I think the real reason is that he knows that when people see this footage, they will be shocked. The law of war manual, which otherwise governs the conduct of people at sea, our troops at sea, requires sailors to potentially offer help to the survivors of a shipwreck when it wouldn't jeopardize their own safety. In this case, they did the exact opposite. And so that would potentially be a war crime. And I don't think he wants us to see exactly what happened. That continues a pattern of this administration not wanting to be held accountable by the American people.
Congressman Krishnamoorthi, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.